This episode contains adult themes and is not appropriate for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, the world. This is They Will Kill, a true crime podcast. I am Courtney Eck.
And I'm Sadie Eck.
And it's Sadie's night, and that's all I have to say about it. Go! Go! Do it!
I figured after Courtney's been pumping out the jams of terrible, like extra terrible lately.
Yeah, accidentally.
And not that my story is not terrible, because it's actually very terrible, but I thought we should do another survivor story.
I think that's a good idea. Everybody needs a palate cleanse. Everybody needs something to live for.
Yes. And let me tell you, our survivor this evening is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Not that they aren't all, but she's very amazing.
There are heroes among us. Some people just shine brighter.
Yep. Yes. So this is the survivor story of Jennifer Holliday and the murder of Anna Franklin.
Okay.
On May 29th, 2005, at around 2 a.m., 27-year-old Jennifer Holliday and her 18-year-old cousin, Anna Franklin, were on their way home after Jennifer had picked up Anna from a late-night babysitting job in Lufkin, Texas. They decided to stop at a local convenience store, and as Jennifer was leaving the store, a man approached her and made sexual advances toward her, which she blew off.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking nothing of it, she walked back to the car and drove away. As they continued down the road, Jennifer noticed a truck that had been parked at the store was now following close behind them.
No, thank you.
The truck followed them for a few miles until suddenly they heard a huge bang.
Mm-mm.
Jennifer described it as, quote, coming out of absolutely nowhere, and was the, quote, biggest, loudest bang ever. Jennifer thought she had been hit by a drunk driver and pulled over. But Anna, who was in the passenger seat, was able to see that the driver of the truck had pulled up next to them and shot a shotgun at Jennifer's car.
Oh, no, thank you.
She was going 70 miles an hour. Yup. Jennifer was badly injured. The gunshot had nearly severed her left arm from the elbow down.
What?
Mm-hmm. Jennifer remembers there was blood and glass everywhere. So much blood that she couldn't see through the windshield to drive. As Anna tried to call 911 on Jennifer's cell phone, the truck pulled up behind them, and with the shotgun still in his hands, he approached Jennifer's side of the car. Once he got to the window, he said, quote, "Hello, girls," and started laughing. He then reached through the broken window, took the cell phone out of Anna's hand, backed up a few feet, and shot into the vehicle.
So, as many times as we've done this, I just can't believe that shit like this actually happens.
I know. I can't help the whole time I was doing this one. Just like if one little thing had been different.
Yeah.
She'd gotten out of the babysitting job a little bit earlier. If they had gone to a different convenience store. If they had, just on and on.
Yep.
One little thing.
Yep.
None of this would have happened.
Ugh. To them. It would have happened to somebody else.
Yes. The blast hit the back of Anna's head as she tried to turn away from the gun, killing her instantly. The man then grabbed Jennifer, who was still bleeding heavily, pulled her out of the car, and forced her into his truck.
What the fuck?
He then went back to the car to try and move Anna's body away from the scene. While he was gone, Jennifer noticed the shotgun on the seat of the truck and decided to throw it out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
She would later say, quote, "Here I'm thinking, hey, I'm fixing to get rid of the only weapon he's got. I took the shotgun and threw it out the window, and it landed on the highway." Once it was out of the truck, she noticed more guns on the floorboards of the vehicle.
No.
No.
Infinite guns.
Yes. She knew she didn't have time to get rid of them all. The man wasn't able to move Anna's body, so he ran back to the truck and took off. Jennifer was still with him. And poor thing, if she hadn't been, like, very wounded, I'm sure she would have been able to use one of the guns, but, you know, he'd shot her arm nearly clean
Oh,
off.
God. Well, yeah, I don't, I don't know how to use a gun very well. Like,
No.
you know, if it's set up for me and handed to me, I can fire a gun, but I don't think the average person could just do it all properly
No, especially
with a severed arm in a
Exactly.
crisis
Yes,
situation.
yes.
Totally.
So Anna Franklin was born on April 26, 1987. Her young life was just starting when it was stolen from her. Anna loved strawberries in the color pink and white. Anna's mom, Robin Franklin, said, quote, her smile, her voice, she was so bouncy. Despite their age difference, Anna and Jennifer were close. Anna thought of Jennifer's young son as her little brother. I really had a hard time finding any more about Anna. The pictures of her, she's just like 18 and bubbly and from Texas and going to be a babysitter and, you know.
Yeah. Just a kid. Regular kid.
Yep. So as the driver, who would later be identified as 31-year-old Eric Parnell, drove off, Jennifer described him as full of rage and very unstable. As they drove, Jennifer tried to decide what to do. Quote, I remember trying to decide, okay, should I try to grab his gun and use it, or should I'm going to die regardless, she said. So should I at least go for it? You know, what do you do? She said that Parnell would hit her over the head, scream at her, burned her with cigarettes, and then would break into uncontrollable laughter.
Oh, my God.
After driving for a while, Parnell pulled over on a deserted country road and forced Jennifer out of the truck. He made her take off all her clothing and then proceeded to rape her. After the sexual assault, Jennifer said Parnell was a different person. Quote, he would start crying and then he would start, oh my God, what happened to your arm? And then he would go back to just screaming and raving, she said.
What a fucking nightmare.
I know. Back in the truck, Jennifer came up with a plan. She thought maybe Parnell was unhinged enough to be manipulated into helping her. While still bleeding heavily from her wounds and completely naked after being raped, she managed to be overly sweet and affectionate to the man that had just killed her cousin and raped her. Quote, I started rubbing on him and kissing on him. I was telling him, that was great, that was wonderful, and thank you for this good time.
You little genius.
Oh, it's so smart. It gives me chills every time.
Yep.
Pretending to really, really enjoy what had happened. I could definitely tell that it was working, she said. She told Parnell someone else had shot her, and he had come to her rescue. Quote, you just picked me up, and we were going to take me to your house, remember? She said. And then he just looked at me like I was crazy or something. He said, well, no. And I was like, yeah, thank you so much. You didn't see that guy John that just shot me? That man just shot me and was going to leave me out on the highway. And thank God you came along and you saved me. It's just
Genius.
so smart.
So smart.
Jennifer had to fashion a tourniquet with one of Parnell's shirts to slow her bleeding and started asking Parnell if she could please use his phone to call 911 for help. At first, Parnell refused to let her call the police because he had warrants out for his arrest and he didn't want to go to jail. Jennifer continued to stroke his ego, calling him her hero, and asking nicely if he would take her to his house so she could call for help. He eventually agreed. When they arrived, his home was in the middle of nowhere. The nearest town was more than 20 miles away.
No.
To make things even more terrible, there was a small cemetery in Parnell's front yard. Yeah. Jennifer said she was terrified already, and the cemetery only made things worse.
That's, like I said, the fact that this shit actually happens, that there's some unhinged killer rapist out there with a yard cemetery.
Right?
And a gun collection at the foot of his fucking truck.
No. Once inside, after more coaxing, he finally allowed Jennifer to call for help, but said only one ambulance could come. No police would be allowed up the driveway. We are going to play that 911 call for you now.
Oh boy. Oh boy, the fact that she didn't bleed out this whole time,
right? Yeah,
or pass
she's so
out, or go
calm.
completely into shock, or yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So by the time of Jennifer's 911 call, police had already found her car and Anna's body.
Mm-hmm.
Now they knew that Jennifer had been abducted and was with Anna's killer. Because Parnell's property was so remote and Jennifer was starting to feel faint, the operator asked to speak to Parnell to get directions to his house, and he agreed.
Mm-hmm.
We'll now play that part for you of the call.
So you said they had figured out that it was him?
Yeah, so at the end of the 911 call with Jennifer, that part that we just played, she's saying it's the same, it's the same, it's the same.
Ah, yeah.
So they were saying we have another shooting, and she said no, it's the same, meaning like no, I was with her. So they were able to piece together the fact that they now knew where Jennifer was.
Got it.
And that dispatcher deserves like 1,000 medals. I hope she wins all of the dispatcher prizes because she thought quickly and then stayed calm and played along and just got like figured it all out.
Whoever is raising the women in this county needs extra bonus points for
seriously
women who know how to survive literally any situation.
Seriously, right?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I didn't even get it. I just sat here calmly listening to the 911 call, and I was like, what's the same?
You would have failed that test.
There's a lot of reasons I'm not a 911 operator.
Oh, God.
And a lot.
So much. While they waited for help to arrive, Parnell now seemed to fully believe the story Jennifer had come up with.
Unbelievable.
Quote, it was just like he had not done anything, and he really believed this other man had shot me, she said.
Wow.
He kept saying, where did your friend go? And I would tell him, she's at the car, remember? She didn't want to come. You were just going to bring me, remember? Because Parnell's house was so remote, it would take a full hour before the ambulance arrived.
No, thank you for
Yes.
that. No.
The 911 dispatcher stayed on the phone with them the entire wait.
Holy fuck.
Yes, and told Jennifer when to leave the house because the ambulance didn't want to approach the home without backup. Parnell had Jennifer put on a pair of his shorts and one of his t-shirts and then allowed her to leave. He stayed close behind her as they walked down the long driveway. Quote, when I walked outside, he was right behind me. I remember fixing to walk up this hill, and I wasn't sure if it was trees or something moving, and I thought, well, maybe I lost so much blood that I'm seeing things. But Jennifer wasn't seeing things. Once she was safe in the ambulance, a SWAT team moved through the woods and overwhelmed Parnell and took him into custody without incident.
Oh, I have chills.
No. Jennifer was finally safe.
Fuck yes.
So this story, I first saw it like a bazillion years ago when I survived, and I just have not been able to stop thinking about it. My Favorite Murder covered it too, and I was just like, I have to do it because I have never stopped thinking about her.
Yeah.
And how terrifying the story is and how amazing she was. Like, I would 100,000% be dead if it had been me. I just wouldn't have been able to think like that. She's so amazing.
Yes. Well, and I think all the time, I mean, a lot of it comes from our conditioning from watching horror movies, but I wonder what the statistics are of people. I mean, for women in situations with psychotic men, that technique is so brilliant, and that's not the first story I've heard of somebody in captivity winning over their captor with like reverse psychology, with sweetness, which, ugh, God, what a horrible thing to have to go through and have to put yourself through. But it does seem like a good tactic, especially if the person is clearly unhinged, like it sounds like he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a mastermind of any kind. He was just
Seriously.
having some kind of break.
Do you want to hear more about him?
Genius. Yes.
Yeah, because I got more about this dickhead.
Great.
Yeah. So the next day, Eric Parnell was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated sexual assault, and kidnapping. After his arrest, he told police what happened and wrote a confession with all the details.
Wow.
As part of the confession, he wrote an apology to Anna and Jennifer's families. Quote, "I'm sorry for what happened. I was completely out of my mind," he wrote. "I know they could not forgive me because I cannot forgive myself." In a jailhouse interview, Parnell said he was on Xanax the morning of the murder and had been kicked out of a bar that night for drinking too much. He said he did not know why he murdered Anna and raped Jennifer, but that he had been angry that morning after he'd called his ex-girlfriend but hadn't been able to talk to her. When her stepfather asked him not to call again and then hung up, he went into a rage.
Yep.
Then, seconds later, Parnell came across Jennifer and Anna.
Yep.
When asked if he knew who he was shooting at that morning, Parnell said he probably would have shot anyone he had seen. Parnell was born January 1st, 1974. At the time of Jennifer's abduction, he was wanted for a drunk driving charge and for failing to appear in court on a family violence charge. Parnell's girlfriend of 5 years and the mother of his 2 children told reporters that Parnell was angry and violent often during their relationship, but she never called police. He would threaten her, kick, slap, and punch her often. Just 6 weeks before the attack, the two got into a fight, and Parnell kept telling her that he was going to shoot her. She said she finally looked into his eyes and believed he would do it, so she finally left him, this time for good. Quote, "That's the reason I left," she said. "I just thought how wrong it was for someone to be able to say that so easily. I moved away to start a better life. We just weren't good for each other, and I thought if I left, everything would be okay."
Oof.
Her stepdad confirmed Parnell's story about the late-night phone call and said that Parnell called at 3:30 in the morning, wanting to talk to his girlfriend, but he refused to wake his stepdaughter up. Parnell called back 3 times, each time he was more angry than before. During the last call, he threatened to kill the stepdad if he didn't get his girlfriend on the phone, but the stepdad still refused and hung up on him.
Good job, stepdad.
Yep.
Good call.
Yep.
I'm sure the survivor's guilt is crushing.
Yes.
But good job.
It was only a matter of minutes before Parnell found 2 innocent victims to take his rage out on. Family members describe Parnell as angry, clearly. I mean, he was known to go, quote, berserk anytime anyone said no to him, and it would get even worse anytime he used drugs or alcohol.
Yep.
They believed because he had been drinking the night of the murder and was already angry after the phone call to his girlfriend, that when he made advances towards Jennifer and she said no, he went into a blind rage.
Yep.
One family member said, quote, "He was always kind of a bully. He's a taunting person who thinks he's above everybody, and he thinks that women are only here to please him, any and all women." I mean, that's like toxic masculinity to the 7,000th degree.
That's just so creepy.
Yep.
I know that there are lots and lots and lots of people like that on this planet, but how? Why? What's the point? How does that happen? How do they not love people?
Yeah.
Does anyone not love people, you know? I don't get it.
I know. Clearly he knew no better. Like, this was just the way it was. Women were there to be used. They were objects.
Yep.
I don't know how that happens.
Nope.
The sheriff's department had been alerted to Parnell's violence, and the family had asked them to do something to stop him before he killed someone, but nothing was ever done. In December 2006, during the jury selection for his murder trial, Parnell decided to plead guilty on all charges, and received 2 consecutive life sentences in prison and waived his right to appeal.
Wow. I mean, that's good. I'm glad he did
Yeah.
that.
During the victim impact statements, Jennifer was able to confront her attacker for the first time and faced him for more than 30 minutes while she told him how his actions had affected her. Wearing a sleeveless shirt to show the thick scars from his shotgun blast that ran down her left arm, Jennifer struggled for words and fought back tears. Quote, "All I can think about every time I think of her," meaning Anna, "is how you left her," she said. She also passed along a message to Parnell from her son, who was 7 at the time. Quote, "He said he's mad at you that you took his Anna away from him." She told him, "God will give me peace one day. I know he will. There's no sense to what you did. None. You will spend eternity in hell for what you did. I know that."
Yep.
But the struggle did not end there for Jennifer. Although she survived the brutal attack, she still faced massive medical bills after she underwent 5 surgeries to repair a hole in her bone and to fend off infections from the nearly 40 shotgun pellets still lodged in her body.
Oh, my God.
Despite all this medical care, she still needed more surgeries to fix her arm. As a direct result of the shooting, she lost her job as a EMT.
You're kidding me.
No.
What?
Yep. Because she couldn't use her hand. Her arm was destroyed. Because she lost her job, she also lost her health insurance.
Oh, my God.
In the state of Texas in 2005, most Texas counties did not provide medical care to anyone earning more than 21% of the federal poverty level. So this meant that Jennifer could not get assistance.
What the fuck?
Quote, "I'm trying to take it all one day at a time, trying not to stay aggravated," she said. "But I've had a hard time getting money from crime victims' assistance, and most of that went straight to medical costs." Jennifer said she obtained disability, but by doing so, she lost her Medicare immediately, and she had to wait 24 months before Medicaid took over.
I'm fucking speechless. I can't believe we do this to people.
I know. I didn't want to turn this into like a raging fucking burn it all down conversation, but this is such bullshit.
Yep.
She lost her job. She got one assistance, which took all of the other assistance away. She needs help. She shouldn't have to pay for anything. The government should just step in and be like, "We got you.
Totally.
We can afford your $100,000 medical bill or whatever.
Yes.
No prob."
Yes. It should always be that way. But especially if you're a victim of a violent crime.
Yes.
You didn't do this. Your body didn't create this problem for your own body. Somebody else created this problem for your body.
Yep.
And that's like the fact that people don't just swoop in and take care of it. It's all taken care of.
I mean, the fact that it's not just all taken care of anyway for
That's what I
everyone
mean.
all the
Yes.
time. Yes.
Yes. But at a
But
very,
especially-
very fucking bare minimum, we should be
Yes.
taking care of people who have been violated.
Yes. If she had been a stay-at-home mom, she would have gotten housing and other government assistance, but because she had been employed, she and her son had to live on a $900 Social Security check every month.
What the fuck? God. Ugh.
Quote, "I understand a lot of it, I really do," she said. Well, I don't, Jen. I
No,
appreciate
you're-
your sweetness, but I don't understand it.
No, it's nothing to understand.
Yeah. But it's just hard. "I try to deal with it every day, one day at a time," she said. "That's what they say to do, and that's what I'm trying to do. Keeping a bad attitude isn't going to help me any." With no public insurance option available at the time, and her income being too high to collect state assistance, Jennifer went into massive debt and could not afford the medical care she desperately needed. She couldn't even afford the physical therapy she needed because the drive was too long and gas was too expensive to get there.
What the fuck?
This is a fucking problem.
Yep.
Even 2 years after being shot, she was still in bad shape. Quote, "I still can't feel the back of my hand at all. I can't put my hand to my face. I have no fine motor skills," she said. Like, she couldn't tie her kids' shoes. She could barely write. Like, it was just destroyed.
Awful.
Luckily, when a local hospital learned of Jennifer's story, they offered to pay for all the medical care she would need to restore function in her hand.
I mean, the fact that she didn't come in and say this is what happened, and they're
No.
like, it's on us, kid. We got this one.
I know.
They're like, yep, I'm going to charge you for all of these things like we do anyway. And it's insane that we charge you for every single we clip and tube and needle and everything.
No. Well, and the doctor who did the surgery for her eventually then said when he went in, the shit that she had put in wasn't done right, and it started to heal wrong, and
Oh my God.
was like causing her more issues. And so he was like, pretty much like, I'll do what I can, but it's not looking good for her. And that just sucks. Like, she couldn't get follow-up treatment because she couldn't afford it. She couldn't even drive there if she could afford it. And
God.
like, who is caring for her? The answer is nobody.
The state of Texas.
Nobody, right?
Texas.
It's like, can I go back in time? I was like, what, 22 or something in 2005? Like, let's go back. I will figure out how to get you all the money and drive you to, I'll move to Texas. Like, just, I can't,
Seriously.
like, God, we have to help each other.
Yep. We have to help each other. When we do, but our government should also fucking help us. 'Cause
Well,
we have plenty of money.
Yes.
We shouldn't have to GoFundMe each other's,
No.
like, crises.
No.
It's absurd.
I know. So in 2007, she was able to get the medical care she needed, but the nerve damage was so extensive it's unlikely she will ever have full use of her arm and hand.
Poor thing.
Quote, my sole goal in life is to get back somewhat as I was before, she said. I know mentally and physically I'll never be able to go back to the job I used to have. I'll be able to do something else, I'm sure. And I kept looking up sweet Jennifer Holliday to see if there was any updates. I hope she's well.
Yep.
I hope she's thriving. I hope she can feel her hand.
Yeah.
I hope that people are taking care of you, that you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
If you need a ride somewhere, let me know.
Seriously.
And that is the story of the survivor and badass Jennifer Holliday.
Well, Jennifer Holliday is a badass, but that story sucked.
I'm sorry.
You did not cheer up the nation with that story.
I'm
That's
sorry.
sad. God.
I'm sorry. I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that any of the stories that we tell are ever good. This is not a good story podcast. We've brought that up multiple times before. You're not tuning in for good news. This is not Upworthy. It's the exact opposite of it. But fuck, man, I know. It's just like, ugh. I just want things to be good and people to love each other and care for each other. Why is it so hard? Why is power and money so powerful?
I don't know.
We've like lost track of our humanity so completely.
Yeah, I do not know. I don't know. I don't understand it. I hate it.
I mean, I'm learning why our brains, they're complicated. They are complicated. And they aren't always looking out. Like, they are always looking out for our best interests, but at the same time, that makes them do the opposite of what they should do for our best interest.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people who are obsessed with guns and have overactive amygdalas, you know, their brain is saying, you're in trouble all the time, you're in
Right.
trouble. And so, yeah, it's a little bit beyond our control. But maybe if we lived in a proactive society versus a reactive society, we could curb some of that. We could calm down the fucking amygdalas a little bit more.
100%. Yes. Calm down the amygdalas. Help each other out. Chill out. You gotta chill out, everybody. Take a deep breath.
It's hard.
Be
It's
kind.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Undo all of the things that all of your generations before you have taught you. Go to therapy.
I gotta break the cycles.
Yep.
Therapy's a huge step forward. Everybody's doing it right now, so it's hard to do right now.
Right, I know. And they can't afford it. A lot of people can't afford to do it.
But you should definitely do it. Yeah, and like I'm going through a phase. Sadie is been very open about her mental health journey recently. I've sort of accidentally fallen into a new phase of self-understanding because a friend of ours was semi-diagnosed with ADHD, and she was like, I think you have it too. And I talked about the highly sensitive people stuff a couple episodes ago. And I was like, no fucking way do I have it. And then I looked into what it means for adult women to have ADHD, and I was like, well, fuck, I think I do have it. A lot of it, actually. And I won't go into, I haven't been diagnosed, but it's an interesting thing to just sort of think that you are one way, right? Your whole life, because you don't have a point of reference. That's the weird thing about being a human being. You don't really have a point of reference. You just have your perception of other people. And we are constantly projecting our perceptions onto other people, right? And so, and we are reacting and adjusting based on how people react to us. And so I'm 42 fucking years old, you know? I think that I know a lot about myself. And then fast forward to this age that we're in where we have access to so much information and people can share their experiences at a crazy rapid rate. And you realize that there's so much you don't know about yourself, and who yourself is so complicated. And I want to find I'm going to, after the holidays, like find somebody to talk to. But I'm also like, who is going to be as interested in my specific brain as I am? Nobody, you know, like, because I'm like, I got a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and then there's lived experience. And then, you know, so I'm just thinking about all of the things that make us human beings and bring us to the points that we are in our lives and affect every single fucking reaction of every single day. And it's a lot, you know, it's a lot. And somebody who has thought about these things deeply for my entire life, I'm like, it's blowing my mind that there's so much about myself that I don't know, you know?
Totally. That's like one of the biggest things that therapy taught me was how much I didn't know, or that I thought I knew and didn't understand about myself, or like that it just didn't have to be the way I thought it had to be. That was a big thing that therapy taught me, and just sort of like, oh, it doesn't have to be so hard.
Yeah.
Relationships and the way I think about myself and all of it, you know, it just really, it blows your mind open. That's why they call it a breakthrough, right?
Right.
Because you're breaking through your preconceived bullshit that you've held on to your whole life.
Yeah, it's very freeing. It's very freeing.